In this tutorial, we're going to talk about comments in Python, the types of comments, and their usefulness to help you get the job done in your Python software project. So today we're going to talk about comments in Python. Comments are an important part of making sure that you assist other seasoned developers, clients, novice programmers, and most importantly yourself in understanding the code that you may be working on. We're going to discuss in detail what are comments, the three types of comments, and the usefulness of comments. And finally, we're going to complete some coding examples explaining everything we have discussed. Let's get started. So comments in Python are indicated by a hash mark sign. It allows you to make explanations within the program. Now note that everything after it is ignored by the Python interpreter. Now we've spoken about the Python interpreter and how it works in a previous video series. If you've not seen that series or would like to revisit that series, I've posted links in the description below, or for your convenience, you can click on the link in the top right of the screen for that video series. Now, in what circumstances in Python would you want to use comments? There are three main reasons why you would use comments in Python. Comments can be used to explain code to other developers. Comments can be used to help you understand what you have written. And comments can be used during debug and testing. In reference to explaining code to other developers, let's say you've been working on a project for a customer and you need to hand off your source code to another developer for him or her to edit, finish, or add to the project. So to help prevent the developer from having to decipher your code and try to understand what you're trying to do, it's helpful to have comments in certain areas. Not on every line of code, but in strategic places that assist in explaining what the more complicated portions of your code does. This creates an understanding between you and your development team members in the project. Next, comments are used to make the code more readable. Let's say that you developed software for a company 2 years ago. The company calls you up and says,
"Hey, A to C Python Academy, we need you to update the software that you created for us and add in these features."
So you look at the code and go,
Wow, that was 2 years ago. I don't remember half that stuff that was in this code.
Now eventually you'll figure it out because you wrote the code. But for us busy, constant working programmers, we have had many projects since then, and we'll have to take time to navigate through the code to understand what this code's purpose was 2 years ago. But with comments inserted in the code, this cuts your debug time in half and allows you to spend more time updating the software for the client. And finally, you can use comments to help you test or debug code. This is called commenting out code and is used to prevent execution when you're debugging and testing. There may be a situation when we need to find out why your code is erroring out. Commenting out certain lines of code can help us in finding the issues by eliminating possible bad lines of code without deleting it completely from the program. For example, let's say that you're working on that program from 2 years ago that the customer wanted you to update for them. So you want to add in a certain feature, and prior to adding in that feature, the software worked perfectly fine. But now when you test the software with the new feature, you receive all kinds of errors. So what you can do now is you can go in and comment out certain portions of the code as you debug and test your way through the software to get the feature to work properly. Now there are three types of comments in Python: full line comments, multi-line comments, and inline comments. So let's break each one of those down. Full line comments start at the beginning of a physical line, starting with a hash sign. The second type of comment is called multi-line, or also known as docstring comments. As their name implies, this comment takes up multiple lines inside a program. Used with triple quotes or triple apostrophes, multi-line comments are very useful for detailed information related to the program in question. The third and final type of comment in Python are inline comments. These comments start in the middle of a physical line. And finally, there is one particular place in Python that comments cannot appear, and that is a string literal. A string literal is a continuous set of alphanumeric characters declared in the source code of a program. The comment cannot appear within a string literal. String literals, which are typically descriptive titles and messages that are output to the screen, are usually noted by being enclosed in double or single quotation marks. So now let's look at some code examples of everything we've talked about. Okay, so let's get into the code here. So the first thing I want to talk about is how you identify something as a comment. You do it with the hash symbol or the pound sign, whichever one you prefer to use. Now, we're going to talk about what a full line comment is. Now, a full line comment is a comment that starts at the beginning of a physical line, and everything after that on that entire line will be considered a comment. When it drops down to the next line, unless you have a hash or pound sign in front of that line, it will not be considered as a full line comment. So for instance, if I went ahead and ran this, it prints out hello Python world, as you can see right here. And it completely ignored the comments that I had sitting up here. Python, when it comes to comments, it sees those comments as items that it ignores. It will not run that code, and it will simply skip over it and go to the next line and output whatever the next line of code tells it to do. All right, the next type of comment we're going to talk about is an inline comment. Now, an inline comment is exactly what it says it is. It is a comment in the line of code. So what I have here is a variable x that equals 10, and right after it I have a comment. Now if you notice, this comment does not start at the physical beginning of the line like a full line comment. It starts in the line of code, but right after the completed code of that particular line. And as you see, it starts the same way as a full line comment would. It has the hash mark and then it has the comment afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and print x, and what I should get is 10. So let's see what we get here. And as you can see, I got 10. Now, this is useful if you're writing specific code and you have some complex lines, individual lines, that maybe you're using a shortcut version of a code that you want to try to remember that this shortcut version of code means this, or some other explanation that you want to remember for that individual line of code. This is a good way to go in and put in a comment in the line to help you figure out or remember what that line is doing. So now let's talk about the third and final type of comment, and it is a multi-line comment. Now within this multi-line comment, there are three styles that you can use for multi-line comments. The first one is the apostrophe, the triple apostrophe at the beginning and the triple apostrophe at the end. But everything in between the triple apostrophes is considered a comment, and it doesn't matter how many lines are in between these triple apostrophes. So what do I mean by that? If I were to take this and put a couple of spaces here and then come to the end and put like 10 spaces there, and I run this, I will get nothing. That's because this is a comment, and that's the only thing on the screen that Python has to see. So obviously it treats it as a comment and it prints nothing out, no output. It ignores it. Let's say that I wanted to put the comment inside of these triple apostrophes right after each portion of the comment, just like this, and I rerun it, and also it runs nothing again because it still sees it as a comment. So it doesn't matter how many spaces or lines are in between the triple apostrophes, it still treats the information inside those apostrophes as a comment, and Python will ignore that portion of the code. Now another way that you can use a multi-line comment will be with triple quotes. And everything I just explained to you in reference to triple apostrophes references to triple quotes. There is no different when I run this. As you can see, it shows nothing because it sees this as a comment. Doesn't matter if I have a line here or if I have 5 lines there. When I rerun this, as you can see, it is still a comment. And now the final comment style that we're going to use here for multi-line comments are the hash or the pound sign. And what you would do is you would put that pound sign in front of each individual line. Now you look at this, you go,
well, Chris, this is just a full line comment across 3 different lines.
And you would be correct in that statement because that's exactly what this is, but it's just another way to do a multi-line comment. Now you may say to yourself,
What's the purpose of using this? When will I ever use a multi-line comment like this in my code?
and if you ever get into coding, really coding as a professional developer or programmer working for a company, you will probably almost never see this in any professional developer's code. Because more than likely, a lot of the times, a developer who has been doing this any significant amount of time is going to be handing off his code to another developer who has also been doing it somewhat of a significant amount of time. And so they understand the code that is being written. So it is unnecessary to write a complete paragraph describing a block of code, or as silly as this may sound, a line of code. So you won't see this in the professional world, but it is there for other people to use. If you're using it in a teaching environment like I'm doing on this channel on here at A to C Python Academy, this could be very useful if you're writing a blog and you're trying to explain programming tactics and programming syntax. This could be useful because you can use this to write paragraphs explaining what a particular piece of code is actually doing. So it's useful, it has its use, but in the professional environment, the professional world as a developer, it's not very useful. Now, there are certain situations where you can use comments to help you in the debugging process. So for instance, let's say that you have a piece of software that you're writing and you're receiving an error, and you've whittled down the location of the error to a particular block of code. And so now what you need to do is you need to go through that block of code and figure out what is causing the issue and correct it. And so an easy way to do that in Python is to simply comment out all of the lines that may be of issue and just go through each line and run each line one by one until the error comes up, and then you can debug it from there and figure out where the issue is, why it's happening, and then you can actually fix it and move on. So what I got here in front of me is just a series of print statements here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to comment all these lines out here. So let's say that we have a problem in our code and we have whittled it down to this block of print statements here. And so each one, as you can see, says first is right, second is right, third is right, fourth is right. And as we go through here, this will help us indicate whether each line is right or not, because if it's not right, it's going to error. And then we have to look at why we have an issue here. So we're going to print out each line by line. And as one is correct, we'll uncomment the next line and print out the previous statements and previous lines, and then correct it if it needs to be corrected, and then move on to the next line. So let's go ahead and print out this line here and hit save there. And as you can see, first is right. So we know that this is correct. So we're going to go back here to our program, and we know the first line is right. So I'm going to come down to the second line. I'm going to uncomment that, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run that. And when I run that, I get an error, an EOL while scanning string literal. So now I got an error and I got to figure out, obviously there's something wrong in this second line here. So let's look at it. We got quote here, second is right. And I have a symbol here that shouldn't be there. So what I need to do is I put another quote at the end of there. So now I go ahead and I run it again, save. And as you can see, the second line prints with the first one. So we're good for 2 lines up. So now we're going to go to the third line, and we're going to go ahead and take the comment out of that one, and we're going to go ahead and run that line. And as you can see here, we get an invalid syntax. So now I say, I got an issue here. I forgot to put my quote, my symbols at the front here. I'll add that, and I run the code again, and here we go. 1, 2, 3. Let's now come down to the next one. I print that out, and those 4 lines are correct. And so now I come in here to the next line, print those out. I got an error. So let's look at what we got here. We also forgot to put our quotes right there. So we put our quotes there. We run the code again. The 5th line is right. And then we come down to our final line here. We uncomment it. And all 6 lines are now correct. So essentially that is how you can use comments to kind of walk through your program and helping you find the errors that you have in the software. And so the last thing we want to talk about here is comments in reference to string literals. So what I have in front of me is what we call a string literal. We have a variable x, which equals this particular statement here. Now inside of these quotes is your string literal. And when you ask the software to print out X, it prints out this is A to C Python Academy. And when we run that, that's exactly what it prints out, as you can see right here. But let's say that I want to put a comment in here, right? So let's say I want to come to the end of this is A to C Python Academy. And I want to come in here and I want to put a comment that says, and I'm going to go ahead and run that. And what do you see there? You see that the comment is not recognized by Python. It prints the entire line out. This is A to C Python Academy hash. This is a comment. And the reason why it's doing that is because when you try to put a comment inside of a string literal, Python does not recognize the comment. It cannot be a comment. Let's say that I want to come in here and I want to make the second half of this string literal a comment. So I want to make this the actual string literal and everything past here will be a comment. And when I go and I run that, as you can see, it does essentially the same thing it did when you put the comment at the end of the string literal. It simply comes in here and it says this is # A to C Python Academy. You are inside of a string literal. It does not recognize that comment. Now if I wanted that comment to be actually recognized by Python, I would have to treat it as an inline comment. So I would come outside of the string literal here, #, and I can print that out. And as you can see, it prints this is A to C Python Academy, but it does not print the actual comment because now we're using it as a comment is supposed to be used as an inline comment. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you found value in it. And if you want more free of charge Python tips, tricks, and tutorials, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in next week's class.